Welcome to today's Herbal Masterclass. We're going to cover herbs for fertility, and I am your host. My name is Sarah Vizzani. I'm a Master Herbalist. I'm a former chemical engineer turned health nut, now certified Masters in Herbology. I live on a homestead that I'm building, so I'm live from my unfinished barn house thing. Don't know what it will finally become when it's finally done, but for now, this is where I'm at. Anyway, so and welcome to the group. For those of you who are watching the replay, please comment #replay so I know you saw it, and feel free to continue commenting here. Any questions you have, any reactions you have, that's always fun. And then this will go into the guides section of this group, the Herb Powered Pregnancy on Facebook. For those of you watching the recording on Zoom, come join us at the Herb Powered Pregnancy on Facebook. The link is below. I don't know if I said on Zoom or YouTube. I meant to say on YouTube. Anyways, and then you can get your questions answered live, and you can party with us and have a lot better access to me real time. So that's fun. Okay, so fertility. This is obviously a huge topic, and I cannot cover all of it in a 1-hour masterclass. But let's see where we get. So first off, I do have another series of videos that I did in this group. I have 6 different videos called 5 Reasons Why You're Not Getting Pregnant. And then I added the 6th one at the end because I still think it is so important and underappreciated. And so those are already in this group, but I did compile them into one YouTube video that I will put the link to in the guides so that that's really easy to find. And so I am just going to go through that really, really quickly, but then talk about not just why you're not getting pregnant, but what to do about each of those 6 topics. And again, this is from an herbal perspective, as well as nutritional perspective, as well as what does a healing lifestyle look like, and how do we apply that to reproductive health generally. All right, so let's get going. So if you, again, I invite you to rewatch those videos or that one compilation video, because I do go into much greater detail of why I'm calling these things some of the root causes of infertility. So I'm just going to say what they are, and then we're going to talk about more about what to actually do about them. Okay, so the first one that everyone always talks about is hormones. Now, how do you know if your hormones are off? I think many of us just know, right? You know, anyone watching live or the replay, you can comment like, what are some signs that you know that your hormones are kind of off? Some that I can list would be, you know, if you start to have irregular cycles, if you have really heavy, painful periods, hair loss can be a sign, thyroid issues can be connected, rage, that's a fun one, really strong PMS and things like this, right? If you're just kind of feeling hormonal. Obviously, those are not the only symptoms of hormonal imbalance, but those are just a few pretty good signs. Another one is if you are very dry during intimacy. So that is one way that you know that you have rebalanced your hormones, is if you produce sufficient lubrication during intimacy without any fancy tests, right? Like that's a really easy test. All right, so obviously if our hormones are off, that's going to affect ovulation, it's going to affect your cycle length, it's going to affect you know, just that whole process, that whole system. And then of course also whether or not you know, things will proceed properly from that point. You know, many people are on hormonal medications through the early part of their pregnancy because of this hormonal imbalance, or what they're often told is like an insufficiency of progesterone or estrogen, et cetera, depending on the point of the pregnancy, because they do kind of move around. Okay, so that's number one, hormones. Number two, gut health. Yeah, gut health affects your fertility, because gut health really, really relates to the overall nourishment of your body, which is number three, being undernourished. So we need our gut health to be really strong so that the good things are getting broken down and taken to the right parts of the body and deeply nourishing our cells everywhere, but also so that we don't have this leaky gut situation where things are getting into the bloodstream that shouldn't, creating all kinds of wacky symptoms and autoimmunity and things like this. And so obviously, if our gut is in good condition and our whole body is nourished, then all of our organs are going to be nourished properly so that we can create the right hormonal balances and all the other substances and secretions that are necessary to be created, you know, whether that be in the liver, the gallbladder, et cetera, pancreas. So again, hormones, gut health, undernourishment. I am also going to link here below to a video that I did. This was actually during my Master Herbalist degree. It was a class assignment to talk about Dr. Christopher's natural healing methods and his mucusless diet. The mucusless diet is the one that he found to be the most successful for any blood type, any ethnicity, etc., in restoring the health of the body and maintaining it. So I have more details there. There's also a few other videos on my channel and that I've done in here, where I talk about what does a good, healthy, nourishing diet look like, that I can support you in learning. And I talk about the different diets that I've been through myself as well, and how those affected me short-term and long-term. So that could be interesting for you. Okay. So hormones, gut health, undernourishment. Okay. The fourth one was underlying chronic conditions. And again, I go into this way deeper in that 5 reasons you're not getting pregnant video. But basically, if there's something going on in your body, like thyroid issues, autoimmunity, Epstein-Barr, Lyme, arthritis, Crohn's, you know, like there's pick a condition, there's a new one every second, right? Like any of these conditions mean that your body is compromised in some way, especially the ones that are related to your digestion. I mean, that's going to affect the whole nourishment of your body and how everything functions. So if you have something like that going on, your body is naturally going to say, this is not a safe time to reproduce. This is not a safe time to carry a baby, because when our bodies are working on growing a baby, it's putting everything into that baby. It's focusing on the baby. I don't want to say at the expense of the mother, but so far, my understanding is it's kind of at the expense of the mother. And so that's why, you know, when we're pregnant and we're not taking in enough silica and calcium and other nourishing factors that lead to bone health and good dental health, we start having tooth problems. That's a sign, right? And so we need to hyper nourish the mother's body so that the baby can get what it needs without mama getting depleted, which is super duper common these days because most of us are starting depleted before we even begin having babies. So I don't like to put like a bleak picture on that. There is hope. This is totally doable, but for now, this is the understood reality, is that the baby takes what it needs at the expense of the mother. And so our body isn't going to want to sign up for that if it knows that we are like substantially weak in some area, such as a chronic condition. Because again, that would compromise the mother's survivability. If you think about it, you know, like, if we go back to the old, you know, fight or flight or freeze. And if we're running away from a tiger, I wanted to say a dinosaur just for fun, but let's say we're running away from a tiger. There's certain abilities and capabilities and strengths and nourishment that we need just to do that. Imagine if we're trying to do that while we're pregnant. Now, most of us aren't needing to do that in our normal life. But if we have these conditions that are weakening us, keeping us super low energy, affecting our ability to get that nourishment, we're not fit to run away from the tiger or whatever that condition is that keeps our body in that stress state. Okay, so hormones, gut health, undernourishment, underlying chronic conditions. The man. So again, any of these things could be happening with your man as well. And that affects his fertility. That affects the strength and motility of his sperm, and his ability to produce healthy sperm. So of course, that's going to affect your combined fertility, your combined ability to conceive. Okay, so hormones, gut health, undernourishment. I feel like I should be quizzing you. Chronic conditions, the man. And then the sixth one, can you guess what it is? Again, if you join me, please put a comment in the chat so I can see who you are and I can say, hey. So the sixth one that I like to talk about that's really important to me is the nervous system and our stress, which I just talked about with this whole crazy tiger analogy, right? So this is fun. Our nervous system and our brain is so deeply connected to our gut, to our digestive system. Some people call it the second brain. There's more and more data and studies on this all the time. I was just looking back in one of my textbooks, and Dr. Christopher Hobbs, who is this really cool herbalist, he's a PhD in, I forget, but a couple different things that are all, herb related and mushrooms and everything. What I recorded from one of his lectures was 70% of our serotonin and 50% of our dopamine is produced by our gut bacteria. That's a lot. That's a lot. 70%. That means only 30% of our serotonin is being taken care of up here. 70% of our serotonin. So does your brain really have a serotonin deficiency? Or does your gut have a healthy bacteria deficiency? Something to think about. So that's just one of the things about how all of this is deeply connected. And so we kind of work, we work in the right steps that work for you. But if you think about, we work on our gut health, it naturally brings our stress down. It naturally regulates our nervous system. It naturally is going to start producing the serotonin and the dopamine and the B vitamins, by the way, that we are meant to have to be and stay in a healthy state. At the same time, if we work on our nervous system and our stress, whether it's with herbs, sleep, right? Balancing our circadian rhythm, various biohacks, meditation, movement, things like this. As we work on our stress and our nervous system, it also has a direct link back to our gut health. So you really can't work on only one and assume the other will automatically be fixed. They help each other. Okay. So like I said, that other video goes into more detail explaining these root causes of infertility that I like to focus on with my clients. So let's talk a little bit about what to do about each one of these. So I'm actually going to work backwards now. So if we go back to the stress in the nervous system, excuse me, I do have a free program. It's on everydayandexperiment.com/smash your stress. That's all connected, and I will put the link below. And if you sign up there, it'll take you to another website to click on that and sign up. You put in your email, and it will send you a video every day teaching you the simple 3-step routine that will have a huge, huge impact on your nervous system and your body's ability to cope with stress, including environmental stress, including immune system stress. It's really, really, really fabulous, as well as for inflammation. Again, right now that is free. I'll probably keep it free for a while, if not forever. But I highly, highly recommend that you check that out. And then that can also give you a flavor for what it could be like to work with me. And there's a special little thing at the end if you want some discounts. So there's our stress. And even that program is just the tip of the iceberg, because stress and nervous system regulation it's kind of having a moment, which is awesome. There's a lot out there, and a lot of it's really, really good. And so do you have to go find the perfect one and then dive into it? No, just try it. Just try a bunch. It's great. But there's a lot more that I can teach you. And part of it is what I studied with certified Alexander technique teachers. And that is a whole way of becoming more aware of your body and more aware of your thoughts, and learning to use them both in concert better. And all of this also naturally lowers that stress response as well. So that's just a few things. And then, of course, your man, it's everything we're talking about. Same thing for him. I don't have men typically request to do consults with me, but that's always an option. Or we could do the consult together with you as a couple, because often the recommendations and the protocols that we're going to do for these very, very basic root causes, they're going to be very similar. So, and many of them will work best long run for the both of you if you are both doing it. And then you've got a built-in support system. So that's pretty great. Okay, so let's go up to those chronic conditions again. This is one where, again, there's a new one every minute of a diagnosis name for a condition. And so I can't give you like 5 minutes of here's the herbs to use for sure. But that is where, we look at what's going on for you and figuring out what the best path forward is. Often we're looking at calming down autoimmunity. And I've used this on myself and it works so fabulously. And then we can work into feeding and cleansing all of our elimination pathways so that those are working properly. I talked a lot about that in the last video, the Herbal Masterclass for reproductive disorders and menstrual disorders. And then we can look at cleansing and re-nourishing the specific systems of the body that are in a state of dis-ease. Now, often, by the time we get to that point, they've already started to correct themselves, because again, when you go further back in the line, so when I was a chemical engineer, I was actually focused on processes and optimizing them. So I would go to the factory and they'd say, well, we have this problem, this product is coming out bent and we don't know why, and we think it's this part, we think it's this part, this person thinks it's this part and they blame us, and this person thinks it's this part and they blame us, which is super fun to be in the middle of that. But I got to go in there, run experiments, get my data, and test out what are the factors here. Now bodies are a little bit different than machines, but they're kind of similar as well. Really, like 99% of the time, much to the chagrin of whoever was in charge of these parts of it, the further back you get in the process, the greater potential you have to fix it simply. you know, ultimately we can say, well, we have this problem. We have infertility. Okay, well, we have infertility because our hormones are not in balance. Okay, therefore, this is where some doctors would stop. Some health professionals would stop. Therefore, we need to take or apply these hormones. And then our hormones will be balanced and we will no longer have infertility. Does that work sometimes? Sure. Does it have side effects and after effects? Yes. And then we're needing to take other things to counteract those. So is it helpful? Yes. Great. Wonderful. But we can actually go further back. Now, I want to take a little break here again, because I keep forgetting to say this at the beginning. I am a master herbalist. I am not a health professional. I am not a medical doctor. I cannot prescribe, diagnose, or treat disease. I am simply providing education. And if you work with me, it's in a coaching perspective. So I am providing education on what has historically been used with great success on specific conditions, specific states of dis-ease or lack of wellness, shall we say. Okay, so anyway, so let's instead say, hey, we have infertility and our hormones are not in balance. Okay, our hormones are not in balance. What process is being impaired to create those hormones in the right balance? And let's go back to that process. And let's figure out how to support that process. Now, one person could say, okay, I'm there. So now we need magnesium and diosgenin and some other precursor that is necessary to give the body what it needs to create hormones in the right balance, but we're giving it a synthetic, highly processed compound. Now, I did a video a couple weeks ago. It's in the guide section of the Facebook group. It's also on YouTube, and it's titled "What Too Many Natural Health Promoters Are Getting Wrong," where I talk more about this idea of the organic versus inorganic forms of providing nourishment to the body. And I'm not talking about like glyphosate versus no glyphosate. Organic meaning incorporated in context in a plant, in a natural substance that has been processed very, very minimally. For example, it was picked and it was dried and you put it in a tea. Versus inorganic, this would be like the rock version, the mineral version, or the lab took a sweet potato and broke it down into its parts and said, oh, it's really high in this one thing, so it must be that one thing that makes that sweet potato so good for us. And then they take away the rest of the sweet potato and they package up that one thing and say, here you go. That also creates some problems in the body. So that's not my preference. That's not the kinds of things that I'm going to be recommending for you. So instead, we say, we are having trouble with infertility. We've noticed that our hormones are off. So we're going to supply nutrients to the body systems that provide balanced hormones. And we're going to do that with wholesome herbs. We don't need the addictive ones. We don't need the poisonous ones. We can do it with wholesome herbs and foods. And as well as, like I said, these other modalities like getting the sun in your eyes when you wake up, exercise, getting enough sleep, getting your sun exposure, which you can't even do during the winter. And you can learn to do it safely no matter what your skin type is. So that's just an example of going further back. And you can even go further back from there, right? Why is my body not naturally getting that nourishment to those body systems? And that's where we start working on the gut. So you can start to see why I really like going as far back as we really, really can, working with it in a very natural way, And it has this cascade effect down the whole process line, so that by the time you get back to this point, it may have already resolved without needing to, really go hard on like the herbs that help correct hormones. But the cool thing is you can do both at the same time if you want to shorten that healing timeline. I'm going to get some water now. All right, tell me if this is making sense. I hope it is. Got a little engineering on you. And I wish I had a sweater. It was 4 degrees this morning. Oh, okay, we can handle it. All right. I hope you can hear me over that generator. I will try to speak a little bit louder. So, all right. So, like I said, I really, really, really recommend diving into that gut health. As I said in the last video, I have an 18-day program with schedules, recipes, meal plans, and herbal recommendations. It's the fastest program I've ever seen. Looking through the internet for candida overgrowth and leaky gut, and everyone that I have taken through it has gotten better in some way from it. Sometimes they didn't notice very much until a few months later when they realized they were eating something they hadn't been able to eat before. And others right away, they're like, oh my gosh, all my joint pain is gone. So it's a really powerful program. It takes some discipline, but it's discipline for a much shorter amount of time than a lot of these protocols that I see, that it's like you're on it for years and you're still not healed. What's going on there? Now, any program that's going after healing the gut is not going to magically make bad food good for you. So when I'm talking about, being able to eat certain foods again, I'm talking about eating certain wholesome foods again. It doesn't mean you finish the program and suddenly you can eat candy with no side effects. That's just not, that defies the laws of nature. Sorry. Welcome to adulthood, right? That was a bummer. That was a bummer for me on my introduction to adulthood. Oh, candy's bad for me? Okay. All right. So, but let's talk about a few herbal combinations that are really great for enhancing fertility. So again, I focus on the super nourishing herbal combinations. There are some things like wild yam and chaste tree berry or vitex that a lot of people are using right now, and they're not bad. They're not bad at all. I am not an expert on them. I know someone did ask a question here for those, and I'm still looking for my book that I know that's in, because those just weren't really a big one for Dr. Christopher. They weren't a focus at his program. So they're okay. But I really like focusing on the herbs that are highly nutritious with a special affinity for the reproductive organs and that entire system and tissues. So let's talk a little bit about those. So like we talked last week, red raspberry leaf is the queen of nutritional herbs and herbs that help with hormonal balance. Now, there was a question about, are there herbs that can actually lower your fertility if you're in a place where you are not wanting to become pregnant? Okay. Again, I am not an expert in that topic, but here is what I have been educated on that topic to this point. There are some herbs out there that have historically been used to decrease fertility. Some of them, I'm thinking of one example. I couldn't tell you which one it is, but it's a Peruvian rainforest herb that was given to young women when they started their cycles to prevent pregnancy. How effective it was, not clear. But there was sort of this old wives' tale understanding that if you gave them a certain amount for too long, they would be infertile for the rest of their lives. So I don't want to play with anything like that personally. And again, the effectiveness of using it, you know, for short term lowering fertility, it's not clear. It's rainforest mythology, so to speak. It could be true, but I don't know what the percentages are. So generally, if you want to lower your fertility, you could do the opposite of everything I've told you today. But then you would be compromising your own health, and that's no fun. So that's my current understanding. Some interesting things though, many of our herbs, especially our nutritional herbs, they help the body balance whichever direction it needs to go. One of the best examples of this is cayenne pepper, which can stop hemorrhaging, but it can also balance your blood pressure, whether it is too high or too low. It can bring it back here. How does it do that? Because it's nutrition and it's stimulation. It's giving that, it's giving our blood pressure, it's giving our circulatory system that little boost to get back in gear, to get working again. It's kind of like a little, a little, what's that called? Is it AFib or DFib? I don't know. I'm not a nurse, right? Anyway, so that's really cool. So red raspberry leaf is kind of similar, again, because it's highly nutritional. I'm doing this a lot today. It's kind of funny watching myself on a video. Anyways, so red raspberry leaf can aid fertility significantly, again, by nourishing that reproductive system. It has a special affinity for the uterus and the ovaries and all those tissues. But also, some of my mentors taught us that when you have a situation of precocious puberty in boys or girls, so if we're going through puberty at a really, really young age, like younger than 13, like there's like 9-year-olds going through puberty now, starting their menses. That's what we would call precocious puberty. And again, I can't diagnose that. You can ask your doctor more about it. If you want to know if your, son or daughter is experiencing that. But either way, red raspberry leaf can actually stop that precocious puberty. Now, I'm not talking about this whole, it's not a puberty blocker. Nope. It's restoring the proper balance of the body, because when puberty is happening precociously, earlier than it is really designed to, something is off. And that's a whole other topic, right? That's a whole other masterclass. That's not going to happen this year. But if you have questions about it, send me a message. At any rate, so red raspberry leaf, drinking the tea several cups a day can be very, very helpful in getting those little bodies back into gear, so we're not having that precocious puberty, and it will start again at the appropriate time. Now, I don't want to shame anybody who experienced that, but this is just the modern world. The age of puberty is going down and down and down, and it is not because we're getting healthier, unfortunately. It has a lot to do with our increase in exposure to toxins and hormone disruptors, which is very, very sad. But again, we have a little bit of power here. Okay, so that's my little thing on that. The other thing, no, I'll answer that one in comments later. Okay, so, and we also talked last week about squalvine, aka partridge berry herb, and chlorophyll, and how beneficial those are for restoring the proper function of the reproductive areas. Now I wanted to, and I talked about a specific triple combo that's been very, very effective. Historically used by Dr. Christopher's patients and many people after that. Last week, so we talked about the hormonal changes formula, the female reproductive formula, and that wheat germ oil. Now, last week I talked about the wheat germ oil, taking like a capsule a day. There's a lot of different dosage recommendations out there. And so I just want to emphasize again, this is personal. Like you kind of figure it out as you go. And that's why, again, it can help to work with somebody who knows about herbs and can help you observe what is going on with you, and when you might need to adjust your protocol. But I did come across this today, which was a significantly higher dosage recommendation in Dr. Christopher's Herbal syllabus book. He actually recommended a whole tablespoon of wheat germ oil 3 times a day to provide the essential fatty acids and vitamin E that help the body regenerate from any state of dis-ease, but especially reproductive problems. So that's out there. Again, I can't diagnose, prescribe, or treat disease, but that is what I read in a book today from one of the greats. So take it as you will. So one thing that I didn't cover last week was the teas. And we're going to talk a lot more about teas in the next couple of weeks as we talk about pregnancy nourishment. But these supplements are really, really wonderful. And when we take them with the teas, you're really synergizing and packing a punch at whatever you're trying to heal or support. And so I have found that even more than any capsule or tincture that I'm taking, when I am consistently drinking certain teas, it affects me so much faster, and in a much more noticeable way, to just drink those teas. And I really believe that's because, it's really, really close to its original natural state. Again, the herb was harvested, it was dried, then you put it in a jar or a mug and you poured hot water over it and you drank the water. Like very, very simple, minimal processing. Now, of course, there are some components that are not water soluble, that these other preparations can be very helpful to draw out other properties. But as far as what we're talking about today, I have found that drinking my red raspberry leaf tea with a couple of other things in it has just been so beneficial to my energy level, my immune strength, just my general feeling of wellness. And I know that comes from being well nourished. So I do want to highlight today. Wow, this time went fast. So I want to highlight today, I'm going to share my screen. There's always more I want to say. Okay, let me get back into the Zoom and share my screen. Okay. This one. So this is my website for my handmade products, that I also sell Dr. Christopher's products on. I drop ship directly from them, so it hasn't sat in a warehouse in uncontrolled conditions or been adulterated or faked. Anyway, but so I have my handmade products, and I really love making the teas. So let's just talk about the teas here. So I have 2 prenatal, so to speak, teas. These have not been evaluated for effectiveness or safety by the FDA. So this is a decision you can make for yourself. But there's 2 different ones. So the first one is this one called Mama's Hope. And so I call this the prenatal and fertility support herbal loose leaf tea blend. And we can see the ingredients down here. So really these two teas are almost identical, but the Mama's Hope has that partridge berry herb, which we talked about last week as being very, very supportive for moderate to severe reproductive challenges. So if that related to me, this is the tea that I would choose for general healing, even if I wasn't trying to become pregnant. General healing of reproductive issues, but also this is a great preconception tea and could even be taken the entire pregnancy if it was indicated as being needed. That partridge berry herb is quite expensive, and so this tea is more expensive than the other one, and that's why I also have the other option for the women that they don't need as heavy of a hitter, but still have a very, very good blend. And I have instructions on how to make the tea there and my little disclaimer. And then I have 2 different sizes and show you here, you know, which size you would get to have a supply for an entire month based on how much tea you would really be drinking. And again, that's totally personal. If you have significant issues, when I have significant issues with any kind of problem, I consider a quart a day of whatever tea applies to be the minimum, which is a lot more than most people are used to doing. But I'm telling you, you'll notice that benefit so much quicker the more you have. And then of course, if you're only up to taking 1 or 2 cups a day, you know, there's the other size there. So, okay. So again, what's in here? We have our red raspberry leaf, which we talked about last week. So nutritional. We have our partridge berry herb, which again, we talked about last week. Then we have our alfalfa and our nettles, which whenever I'm making any kind of nutritional blend, I want red raspberry leaf, alfalfa, and nettles. Those are like my 3, everything's in 3s today. Those are my big 3. They just have so many benefits. If I have a little bit of time, I'll list some of them. So anyway, heavy on the nutrition, heavy on the support for the reproductive areas. And then we have the spearmint leaf, which is really great for any kind of nausea, but it's also just very uplifting. It's very good for your nervous system, among other things. It's even good for your teeth. Lemon balm is another fabulous herb for calming, whether it's anxiety or tummy troubles, things like this. And that can, of course, help with our fertility, as we talked about the stress angle. Ginger root it also has a special affinity for warming the reproductive area. So stimulating that good circulation, which is going to get all these nutrients where they need to go. It's also very anti-inflammatory. It's a fabulous herb. It has so many benefits. And then the lemon peel is mostly for flavor, but also has some antioxidants and good stuff in it. I do have blog posts on each of these. That's all linked to there. You can read some more about them. Okay, so let's go into, so that was the Mama's Hope fertility support. And then we have Mama's Glow. So I call this the pregnancy support tea. But again, for women who don't really have reproductive issues, but just want to say, prepare for pregnancy. You know, I just want to give my body a little tune-up, and I want to be really well nourished before I conceive. And, you know, maybe my cycles need to get a little better regulated, or I just want to make sure that I, you know, ovulate normally, that I'm right on time for when I want this baby to come. You know, as much as that is controllable, this would be, you know, the option. That's what I created this one for. So again, this is really the same as Mama's Hope. It just doesn't have that partridge berry. So we have our big 3, the red raspberry leaf, alfalfa, and nettles, spearmint leaf, the lemon balm, the ginger root, and the lemon peel. So it's not meant to be like this is the best tasting tea ever. But those last 4 ingredients do provide a nice little flavor profile. And I always tell people, add whatever you need that is wholesome to your teas so that you will drink them, whether that's honey, almond milk, maple syrup, those would be fine. And another way to get tea in, if you don't like the flavor, is you can just add it to your smoothies. You can even add it to soup. You can throw it in your soup as a base. There's a lot of different options. Anyways, so those are two teas, excuse me, that I wanted to kind of feature today. And okay, are there any questions? Okay, no questions have come through so far. So besides those blog posts on herbalembrace.com, there are also a number of posts on Instagram and Facebook at Herb Powered Pregnancy. That's all one word. Where, in some cases I list, like, for example, alfalfa is rich in iron, calcium, phosphorus, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K, vitamin B12, hello, protein, chlorophyll, minerals, and enzymes. Dr. Christopher said that it would help in every condition of the body, whether it would be for healing or maintaining health. So it's just a fantastic herb. The earliest mention we have of it in the ancient world is 2939 BC. It's been used for a long time. So really, really fabulous. And then stinging nettles, as it has historical use as infertility, which is very interesting. Helps with anemia, because it has its own supply of iron, but it also helps the body absorb the iron it's already getting better. And it's really great for circulation. It's rich in calcium, magnesium, iron, potassium, silicon, copper, sulfur, nitrogen, phosphorus, protein, vitamin C, pantothenic acid. It's so good. So that's just the first, that's the first three here. I don't have here a list of nutrients in the red raspberry leaf, but they are also many. And its actions, historical uses as a nutritive, anti-diarrheal, anti-nausea, immune support, pregnancy tonic, uterine tonic, astringent, and parturient. There's just so much good stuff here. So again, we don't have any questions today, and that's fine. If you're watching this after the fact, please comment your questions or send me a direct message. If you want it to be private, that's totally fine. I get it, right? Like, we're talking about potentially sensitive topics here. But please reach out to me. I would love to teach you more. I do have openings for single consults, or for my monthly package, which gets you 1 hour every week with me to talk through what's going on, to create a personalized protocol for you, again, to re-nourish your body, eliminate toxins, and open those pathways, getting your body systems working, specifically working on your gut health and any area of the body that needs a little love, right? And then, of course, also the nervous system stuff. So again, I invite you to check out my free 7-day video course called Smash Your Stress on everydayandexperiment.com. But also, if you already know that you're ready to work with me one-on-one, please reach out. Just send me a message. If you're here on Facebook, or if you are on Instagram and find me there at Herb Powered Pregnancy, just send me a message there, and let's start talking. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're not on social media at all, I'm impressed. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. I actually quite admire that. But you can also send me an email at everydayandexperiment@gmail.com. And then make sure that you check your spam, so that if I respond and it goes to your spam, it doesn't get lost, because that happens sometimes and it makes me really sad. And if I don't respond to you right away, try again, or put a comment in the YouTube like, hey, did you see my email? Because you never know. But I don't want to miss your message. I do want to help. So just reach out and let's get you feeling better. You deserve it. You really can. And I really, really believe in the body's ability to heal itself when we give it the right building blocks and we give it the right environment, and it can just start thriving and rebuilding and healing. And then everything works better, including fertility. So with that, I'm going to end the call today. I am going to do a masterclass next week. I believe it is on, let me double check here. Aha, yes. Next week's masterclass you won't want to miss. It is on preventing miscarriage with herbs. So if you want to join us live and ask your questions, come find us at the Herb Powered Pregnancy Facebook group. Again, the link is in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. If you're in this group and you know someone who wants to hear that masterclass and be at it, please invite them to the group. If they answer the questions, I'll let them in. They're not hard. And then that'll be great. And we're going to keep going until my baby is born, or until the first of the year, whichever comes first. We should be able to get through all of them. But basically we started at herbs for reproductive problems, whether you are trying to get pregnant or not. And then we're going to go all the way to postpartum and breastfeeding. Again, if time allows, if my baby comes early, we'll see, but I don't think they will. I think we'll have plenty of time. So, okay. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.